Okay, sorry about that. I had to get up for a second chat. Okay, let's do this. I am so ready. Okay, let's do this. Do 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 da 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 da. Ba 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 ba. Hello. How's it going? Good day. Hello. Good evening. Hello. Good day. How are you? Doing well. Gibbity bum 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 bum. Oh, okay. Let's get some tunes going. We're gonna this stuff done, like so much done. Okay, on today's menu, we've got to get all the core stuff done so that I can get the intro booklet made. So that means I need these. Fix this. Wow, 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 wow. Concept page open. Okay. Now I just need to translate this readable format for the rattle, rattle. Rattle 'em, boys. Okay. Still want to put this... See, I still want to put this in a PDF. Suppose if I just do it yeah. How do I want to do this? It converts files to PDF if that's an issue. I didn't know that was a thing. But the thing is that I want to put it in like a D&D styled PDF, which is what websites like the Home Brewery is for. Trying to think about, do I want to leave Prism as 5e compatible? And I don't see any reason why I wouldn't. It's still my own system, it's just compatible with 5e. I don't see there'd be a problem with that. I think I'll just do it this way. Core mechanics. Just how the game's gonna work. Action economy. Well, what I'm probably going to do, Waymaker, is get Gaz's help with the formatting and probably do some art requests for, like, the fancy little filigree stuff. Maybe, like, a little guy in the corner or something. Make it look nice. we'll do it this way. Each character starts with 4 action points. These action points each round with 4 action points. These points are spent to perform various actions throughout the turn, the round. These action points refresh at the start of the round. Example of actions. Is Frog Champion Chamber? I've asked you as a challenger. Well, welcome in, Frog Champion. No problem, Frog Champion. A new frog croaks into the... Pretty good so far. Don't think I'm missing any actions. I think that's all of them. Oh, assist. Got that one. Because assist can handle things like pass an item, help an ally, things like that. There'll be a lot of sub-actions underneath assist, but it'll all be the same shit. Attack with a light weapon is 1 action point, so like a dagger or a hand crossbow. Attack with a weapon, so like a longsword or battle axe, is 2 action points. Attack with a heavy weapon, like a greatsword or a maul, 3 action points. Casting a spell is 1 action point per spell level. To use an item is 1 action point per complexity. So that means like a potion is a rather simple action, so that's like 1 action point. But like using a poisoner's kit is a complex action, but might cost 2 action points. Operating a lever is a simple action, so that'd be 1 action point. Opening a door, dependent on the door, might cost 1 to 2 action points. Basically, all of the game space that has to do with like using items or devices is under that skill. It's pretty simplified. I think it makes sense. Moving is 1 action point, and the value of that move is determined by various sub-attributes. And obviously you can spend as much movement. Block is using a shield to reduce damage you would take, and the amount of action points to use your shield for blocking is equivalent to the shield type that you have, following a similar pattern of light weapon, medium weapon, heavy weapon. So light shield, medium shield, heavy shield. And the block amount and other sub-effects it might have is dependent upon that, but the action point cost is simplified. And and remember, you can take actions at certain actions at any point in the turn, so that's an active defense, so you can use that outside of your turn. You have parry, which is using your weapon to attempt to negate damage, and the amount of action points it costs to parry is equal to the action points of the enemy. So it's actually more difficult to parry a larger weapon. So if someone with a greatsword attacks you, you have to use 3 action points to block it, which means you can't attack back and move, right? Which I think is nice. And then you have avoid, which is the active defense for like saving throws. And then you have withstand, which is an active block effect for saving throw based effects, which uses your armor. Utilize skill, which is like utilize item except you're using a skill, and dependent upon the complexity of the task, like backflipping over an enemy is pretty complex to pull off, so 2 action point cost, something like that. Assist, same thing, pretty straightforward. Yeah, I think this works. How do reactions work? Do you have to save points and risk losing them, or do you spend them the next turn? You have to save points and risk losing them. Your action points refresh to their total. Fewer damage riders, I hope, otherwise light weapon meta. Well, so the thing about it is it's like, there's going to be a lot less modifiers, because remember the mantra of this system is small numbers, big decisions, right? So light weapons will be light, but you will get to attack with them more often, so. Oh my god, this thing zoom in again? Go away! Ah! Yeah. I think that looks good. I think that explains every action that I can think. Hey, you guys think of any that aren't here? Martial checks? That's under skill use. That would fall under assist. Clarification about holding actions. There aren't any hold. You don't have to hold your action. You can just use actions. There are some that can't be used outside of your turn, but you can just use action points at any time. Like, for example, you can't use the attack action outside of your turn unless you have special shit, like riposte. And the active defense actions, you can use outside of your turn. So you don't have to hold actions anymore, you can just take them. Is attack of opportunity not a thing? It is, but it's not a core feature that everyone gets. Only martial characters and maybe some wanderer are going to get access to that. Because one of the biggest one of the things I wanted to address was, so it's called attack of opportunity, right? But knowing when to take advantage of that opportunity, or whether or not the opportunity exists, is really in the realm of martial characters, you know? So. Would, in that case, people be able to naturally perform multiple actions outside of their turns if they have action points for it? Yes. Give me just a second. Why is it darker now? I don't know. Anyway. Anyway, what are we talking about? Are some weapons going to have the special property like loading would fall under the use of item action? So, there will be special weapon properties, obviously, that'll change how things work and interact and stuff. And there'll also be class features that will change, like, action economy cost and things like that. Like, for example, if you want to be a mounted combatant and have full action economy utilization, well, then you're going to want to use the handle animal skill, right? Or animal handling skill, which is the skill you would use to do things with your mount. So it's like, that's what the action point cost for mount interaction would be under, is under the skill of animal handling. Because, you know, that's what a mount is an animal that you handle. So, like, if you wanted to mount or dismount, you'd have to use action points under the animal handling skill. Which, obviously, I'm going to have to write out all those, but that's the idea, at least. Yeah, and weapons, for their properties, you know, they'll be different things and different forms of interaction in the game that will exist, obviously. And they'll have different, they might have action point costs that might cost a little bit more or a little less. Adida, thanks for coming by. Haven't been here in a while. You haven't been here since 2022, according to the old chat log. Welcome back. Holy shit! That worked! I watch a lot of YouTube VODs. Oh, okay. So you're a YouTube guy? Okay. Welcome back in either case. I wonder, can I get it to zoom in? Still mastering the camera. Anyway, I think I got all the actions. Yeah. So animal companions and mounts wouldn't have their own action economy? that's not necessarily true. Their action economy will just be limited, depending on different things like training and intelligence and things like that. When I go over the mounted rules, it'll probably be pretty comprehensive or the animal companion rules. It'll probably be pretty comprehensive. Yeah. But if you wanted them to do something that's not in their nature or that requires training, then you'd have to command them, which means it'll probably cost you an action to do that. The idea, truly the idea, because of how the action point system is going to work, I don't want mounted characters or characters with animal companions to just be systemically more powerful than people that don't have them, right? So, just so that you're fully aware, because it's probably for anybody that wants to play a mounted character or a character with an animal companion, the idea for the balance of the system is that whatever form that might take that I have yet to write, the intention will be that it will be something that costs action economy to use from you, right? And it is not an additive sublimation, it is a replacement sublimation. So what I mean by that is that you're not just going to get 3 extra action points that you can use through your animal companion. What you will get is action points you can spend on your animal companion that will allow them to do something in your stead, essentially, for the action point. For example, let's say you had like a dinosaur as your animal companion, like a raptor or something. The command attack on the raptor might cost you 3 action points, because it would be the equivalent of a heavy weapon. So that's the intention. Yeah, something like that, guys. Same thing as spellcasting. So the obvious approach here would be that the animal companion, the animal in general, would have a set of base actions that it can take on its own without command. But to do any of its cool stuff, you're going to have to command it to do it. What's disengage cost if it's a thing? So disengage is another thing that will not be a core effect. It's just you either have it or you don't. It'll be class dependent. But it would be an active defense that'll probably cost like... It'll probably act as like an augmentation to movement. So only certain marshals or wanderer classes would have it. Let's see here. Let's see. Actually, I'm gonna do this. Yeah. Yeah, you're commanding your Pokemon and it doesn't do it, right? Yeah. Do you think that having all these action types will make learning the system more difficult or cluttered? What's the plan to keep Prism digestible? So, here's the thing, like, base 5e already has these actions. The only thing I'm really adding are the defensive options. And I already think that the clutter level of base 5e is pretty high as it is. Except it doesn't, like, the system of it determining, like, how many times, for example, have you heard people ask what action economy cost it takes to drink a potion, right? Like, knowing when things cost an action, knowing when things cost a bonus action, knowing when things are a free action, you know, stuff like that. I think that's more clutter than just a simple number system, a simple numerical representation. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's going to be far less complicated because all you have to do is keep track of one number, right? One number. And that's your action, like, action economy. You have 4 points. So if you use something, then you have less points. I think it's going to be way easier than people trying to action max. Like, is that an action? Does this cost does bonus? You know what I mean? It avoids that conversation completely because you know exactly how many points things are going to cost, and if you don't, then the DM will just tell you, right? And then you know what you can do and what you can't. Can I have my horse open my pack and feed me a potion? No, unless it's a Dabarakian warhorse. And a Dabarakian warhorse can do it if you're unconscious. Which is why they're so goddamn expensive. Because they are treated as actual citizens in Dabarak. And have a higher intelligence and speak with their own language called Cantor. Dabarakian warhorse is like the supreme mount. This action economy sounds kind of like the system used in Divinity. Well, yeah, that's because it uses an action point system. Like many, many, many RPGs, action point system. And I just think that I think a quantitative action economy system is better than a qualitative one. And this is after years and years of experimentation. I think it'll be easier for people to understand. It has a much easier design space, and it's just better, I think. Okay. Ugh. Ooh. Ugh. Let's see what else they got. Hmm. There we go. Nice. Like that. See you later, Guardian. Big. Oh, I have prowess in here twice. Missing one? I'm missing one. They're really only 15. So, no mistakes. I do not see any. Oh well, I guess. Although the mix I'm listening to, by the way, chat room, is Rifty Beats. Good. I'm chilling right now. This is very good. Yeah. What's up, David? Good to see you again. This is a fucking bop, dude. This is a great remix. I feel so good to this right now. I hate yawning. Ugh. Oh, what a cool mix-up. That's awesome. See if I can adjust my... Make this big enough. What happens if I... Oh, that's much worse. I'm presuming that you guys can't really see what I'm doing, right? It's really hard to read. Easy to read on desktop, Rick. I can fix that somehow. Nice. Next. Is that better at all? Is that better or worse, do you guys think? I tried stretching it a little bit. Uh-oh. Oh dear. Looks like that's the best one then, unfortunately. What if I did that? That help you guys? That easier to read? I can just zoom way in on everything. Ugh. Fucking jamming right now. I just realized I forgot something. Oh no, I guess that would be a void. Okay. No, it should be the lowest. Yeah, it should just be. I was trying the minus thing, but that's just gonna be too. I actually think lowest of the two is what I'd already determined, and I just forgot. Good thing I'm writing all this down. Fuck. It's all up here until then, right? I don't want to lose any of it, and I'm very old and senile and dying inside. Really got to think about this one. What I'm thinking about right now, chat, is whether or not I want initiative to govern, like, maximum number of action points that can be spent outside of your turn. I think that would make initiative too powerful, though. But it would be a nice game space interaction, so... Be right back, chat. I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. I'm back. All right, I'm here. Okay, I think I figured it out. I think one of the abilities that I might give to the Wanderer tree, and maybe a couple of specific Martial tree character classes, is the ability to conserve action points to use next round, and that would be determined by initiative. Yeah, I think that's good. Because Wanderer characters are all about preparation and setup, being able to overcome their opponents. Hmm. Yeah. Sure what to do here. Wit could be social checks, yeah. Effectiveness of certain avoid actions, yeah, it makes sense to avoid mind affecting effects. Ah. have to keep reminding myself that these are just examples. These are not, like, the only things they can do. It's just meant to give people a, just an idea of what these sub-attributes would be for. We'll listen to some dwarf music, I think. Let's do Lament.
They will look for him from the White Tower. But he will not return, from mountain or from sea. Through Rohan, over fen and field, where the long grass grows, the west wind comes walking, and about the walls it goes. What news from the west, O wandering wind, do you bring to me tonight? Have you seen Boromir the tall, by moon or by starlight? I saw him ride over 7 streams, over waters wide and grey. I saw him walk in empty land, until he passed away into the shadows of the north. I saw him then no more. The north wind may have heard the horn of the son of Denethor. O Boromir, from the high walls westward I looked afar, but you came not from the empty lands where no men are. From the mouths of the sea, the south wind flies. From the sand hills and the stones, the wailing of the ghouls it bears, and at the gate it moans. What news from the south, O sighing wind, do you bring to me at eve? Where now is Boromir the fair? He tarries and I grieve.
Ask not of me where he doth dwell, so many bones there lie on the white shores and the dark shores, under the stormy sky. So
That is something I
many have passed down and in to find the flowing sea. Ask of the north wind news of them, the north wind
No, that wouldn't be for us. That wouldn't be
sends to me.
O Boromir, beyond the gate, the seaward road runs south. But you came not with the wailing calls from the grey sea's mouth. From the gate of kings the north wind rides, and past the roaring falls, and clear and cold about the tower its loud horn calls. What news from the north, O mighty wind, do you bring to me today? What news of Boromir the bold, for he is long away. Beneath Ammenhen I heard his cry, there many thoughts he fought. His cloven shield, his broken sword, they to the water brought. His head so proud, his face so fair, his limbs they laid to rest. And Raros, golden Raros, falls for him upon its breast. O Boromir, the tower of God shall ever northward gaze. To Raros, golden Raros, misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old. We must away ere break of day, to seek the pale enchanted gold. The dwarves of yore made mighty spells, while hammers fell like ringing bells in places deep where dark things sleep, in hollow halls beneath the fells. For ancient kings and elvish lord, there many a gleaming golden horde they shaped and wrought, and light they caught, to hide in gems on hilt of sword, on silver necklaces they strung, the flowering stars on crowns they hung, the dragonfly in twisted wine, they mesh the light of moon and sun. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to claim our long-forgotten gold. Goblets they carve there for themselves, and harps of gold where no man delves. There lay they long, and many a song was sung unheard by men or elves. The pines were roaring on the heights, the winds were moaning in the night. The fire was red, its flaming spread, the trees like torches blazed with light, the bells were ringing in the dale, and men looked up with faces pale. The dragon's eye, more fierce than fire, laid low their towers and houses frail. The mountains smoked beneath the moon, The dwarfs they heard the tramp of doom. They fled their hall to dying fall beneath his feet, beneath the moon. Far over the misty mountains gray, to dungeons deep and caverns dim, we must away ere break of day, to win our hearts and gold from him. The wind was on the withered heath, but in the forest stirred no leaf. Their shadows lay by night or day, and dark things silent crept beneath.
The wind came down from mountains cold, and like a tide it roared and rolled.
The branches groaned, the forest moaned, and leaves were laid upon the mold.
The wind went on from west to east, all movement in the forest ceased.
But shrill and harsh across the marsh, its whistling voices were released. The grasses hissed, their tassels bent, the reeds were rattling, on it went, forshaken pool, under heaven's cool, where racing clouds were torn and rent. It passed the lonely mountain where, and swept above the dragon's head. There black and dark lay boulders stark, and flying smoke was in the air. It left the world and took its flight over the wide seas of the night. The moon set sail upon the gale, and stars were fanned to leaping light under the mountain, dark and tall. The King has come unto his hall. His foe is dead, the worm of dread, and ever so his foe shall fall. spear is long,
the arrow swift,
the gate is strong,
the heart is bold, that looks on gold. The dwarfs no more shall suffer wrong. The dwarfs of yore made mighty spells, while hammers fell like ringing bells in places deep where dark things sleep, in hollow halls beneath the fells. On silver necklaces they strung the light of stars, on crowns they hung the dragon fire from twisted heart, the melody of hearts they run. The mountain throne once more is freed. O wandering folk, the summons heed. Come haste, across the waste. The King of friend and kin has need. Now call we over the mountains cold. Come back unto the caverns old. Here at the gates, the King awaits. His hands are rich with gems and gold. The King is come unto his hall, under the mountain dark and tall. The worm of dread is slain and dead, and ever so our foes shall fall. The Lord of silver fountains shall come into his own. His host shall echo golden to songs of glory sung.
I think that's good enough. Ugh.
farewell we call to hearth and hall. The wind may blow and rain may fall.
We must away ere break of day, far over wood and mountain tall.
Ooh, we're getting it done, chat. Let me tell you.
Rivendell
Get all this shit done.
Elves yet dwell in glades beneath the misty fell. Through moor and waste we ride in haste, and whither then we cannot tell. With foes ahead, behind us dread, beneath the sky shall be our bed, until at last our toil be past, our journey done, our errand sped. We must away, we must away. We ride before the break of day.
I really like this song. Their version of this is really good.
Day is ended, dim my eyes, but journey long before me lies. Farewell, friends, I hear the call, the ships beside the stony wall. Foam is white and waves are gray. Beyond the sunset leads my way. Foam is salt, the wind
the sails are set. The wind is east, the moorings friend. Shadows long before me lie beneath the ever-bending sky, but islands lie behind the sun that I shall raise ere all is done. Lands that are to west of west, where night is quiet and sleep is rest. Guided by the lonely star, beyond the utmost harbor bar, I'll find the havens fair and free, and reaches of the starlit sea. Ship, my ship, I seek the west, and fields and mountains ever blessed. Farewell to Middle Earth at last. I see the star above my mast.
I really like this song. It might be one of my favorite songs that they do. By the way, Chad, if you don't know who these guys are, they're Clamavi de Profundis. They do like fantasy songs and stuff like that. Their best stuff, I think, is the Lord of the Rings stuff they do.
Beware, beware, the daughter of the sea.
This is a good one, too.
Beware, I heard him cry. His words carry upon the ocean breeze as he sank beneath the tide. Those blood-soaked shores of Kalimdor, where sailors fought and died, the admiral fell at their amour because she left his side.
Why this, oh daughter of the sea? Why this, did you forget your seaside days? Always the pride of our nation's eyes. How could she go astray? When she did flee across the ocean deep, the admiral followed west. What else but sail to save a daughter's life, and pray she still drew breath. Why this, oh daughter of the sea? Why this, did you forget your seaside days? Always
on those distant shores, enemies pulverized. But when he faced those savage foes, his daughter stood aside.
And buried deep beneath the waves, betrayed by family, to his nation with his last breath cried, "Be with the daughter of the sea."
Why this, O daughter of the sea? Why this? Did you forget your seaside days? Always the pride of our nation's eyes. How could she go astray?
I heard across a moonlit sea the old voice warning me. Beware, beware, the daughter of the sea. Beware, beware of me.
I like that song too. Oh, here we go. Now we're talking.
Swing, swing, swing with me. Raise your pick and raise your voice. Sing, sing, sing with me. Down and down into the deep. Who knows what we'll find beneath? Diamonds, rubies, gold, and more, hidden in the mountain store. Born underground, molded from a heart of stone. Raised in the dark, the safety of our mountain home. Skin made of iron, steel in our bones. Dig and dig makes us free. Come on, brother, sing with me. I am a dwarf and I'm digging a hole. Diggy, diggy hole. Diggy, diggy hole. I am a dwarf and I'm digging a hole. Diggy, diggy hole. Digging a hole.
Sunlight will not reach this low.
Deep, deep in the mine.
Never seen the blue moon glow.
Dwarfs don't fly so high.
Hill like glass and down some mead. Brotherhood in song and feast.
Work is done, now fall asleep. Dreaming in our mountain keep. Forged underground, hammer in the iron room. The earth is our home. The mountain shall become our tomb. Face us on the battlefield. You will meet your doom. We do not fear what lies beneath. We can never dig too deep. But I am a dwarf and I'm digging a hole. Diggy, diggy hole. Diggy, diggy hole. I am a dwarf and I'm digging a hole. Diggy, diggy hole. Digging a hole. I am a dwarf and I'm digging a hole. Diggy, diggy hole. Diggy, diggy hole. I am a dwarf and I'm digging
and I'm filling in the hole, filling in the hole, filling in the hole. Oh, I am the elf and I'm filling in the hole, filling in the hole, fill in the hole.
Fucking elf.
This is a great song too. Gotta go through their whole list of shit.
Okay. Let's see.
The leaves were long, the grass was green, the hemlock gumbles tall and fair, and in the glade a light was seen of stars in shadow shimmering. Tinuviel was dancing there to music of a pipe unseen, and light of stars was in her hair and in her raiment glimmering.
The Baron came from mountains cold, and lost he wandered under leaves, and where the elven river rolled, he walked alone and sorrowing. He peered between the hemlock leaves, and saw in wonder flowers of gold upon her mantle and her sleeves, and her hair like shadow following. Enchantment healed his weary feet, that over hills were doomed to roam, and forth he hastened strong and fleet, and grasped at moonbeams glistening, through woven woods in elven home. She lightly fled on dancing feet, and left him lonely still to roam in the silent forest listening.
whispering fell the beechen leaves in the wintry woodland wavering.
He sought her ever wandering far, where leaves of years were thickly strewn by light of moon and ray of star in frosty heavens shivering.
So glinted in the moon as on a hilltop high and far, she danced and danced, her feet were strewn a mist of silver quivering.
When winter passed, she came again, and her song released the sudden spring, like rising lark and falling rain, and melting water bubbling.
He saw the elven flowers spring about her feet and healed again. He longed by her to dance and sing upon the grass untroubling.
Again she fled, but swift he came.
Tinuviel, Tinuviel.
He called her by her elvish name, and there she halted, listening.
One moment stood she, and a spell his voice laid on her barren cane, and doom fell on Tinuviel, that in his arms lay glistening.
As Baron looked into her eyes, within the shadows of her hair, the trembling starlight of the skies, he saw their mirrored shimmering.
The elven fair, immortal maiden, elven wise, about him cast her shadowy hair, and arms like silver glimmering.
Long was the way that fate them bore, o'er stony mountains cold and grey,
Through walls of iron and darkling door, and woods of nightshade more or less.
The sundering seas between them lay, and yet at last they met
And long ago they passed away. In the forest singing sorrowless.
Song. There's another one that I was. Oh man, I heard it. It has been a while since I heard it. There it is. Luthien's Lament. Good song. This was made by Uriel. Yeah. From the Silmarillion.
Oh, great Mandos, high among the land, I come to you in sorrow and with a broken heart. Long has been my journey.
Great song, right? So sick. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, so character origins. I gotta find some tunes, man. I'm gonna get in my feelings if I don't. Let's do let's do get muted though. I'm gonna find something here. Let's do Alrighty.
Down, down, down by the river. Down, down, down by the river. Hanging morning fog, mist will lead where you belong. Sweep me off my feet. Down, down, down by the river.
I think that'll be good. Woo! We got it done, chat. That was the big thing I wanted to finish today. That was the big thing I wanted to finish today was the intro prep for the Kickstarter. So that's gonna go like right on the Kickstarter, but with like visual aids and stuff. That'll help out. Yeah. Sorry. I mean to yawn into the mic and shit. Start barking like a dog, growling, screaming at them. Whew. Take a small chill break with the chat room. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Next lo-fi mix-up we're listening to is by Chill Astronaut. And we got a lot of shit done. Make sure I'm satisfied with all of it. I think this is good. Start the game with 4 action points. Let's see, start the game with 4 action points.
This will be a night to remember.
So if you like, say you're a knight wielding a greatsword, and you want to hit somebody, spend 1 action point to move up to them. 3 action points. They have to spend 3 action points to parry it, because it's a great sword. And then they try to move away on their next turn. Or they take the risk so they can hit you back. Yeah, I think that's good. Because the trade-off is that there'll be augmentations like that martial characters get and stuff that will make the action point cost. Swing a greatsword, for example, to be like 2, because it'll be a great specialist, right? Which means that, boom, they attack, but it still costs 3 to parry, because the parrying mechanic works off the base. But if you're a parrying specialist, parry costs less for you. So it's like pretty off there. Ugh. I think that's good. You basically have to couple in action economy, like action point cost. You have to, and because there's no reactions or anything, you just use action points as as you need to or as unexpected things happen. So that means your judicious use of your action points means that you have to think about every aspect of the turn. And the decisions that you make earlier in the turn affect what will happen to you later in the turn. Like if somebody casts a fireball on you, that's going to have you make a dexterity saving throw. Or more likely than not, it'll have you make a one of the sub-attributes. But let's just say for now a dex save. You make a dexterity saving throw, but you can choose to use the action Avoid, which is trying to dodge fireball, right? And then doing so means that spend an action point and you gain like a bonus to saving throw. Yeah, and then the value of the avoid is by sub attribute. God, why am I so yawny? I'm sorry. But, like, let's say somebody threw a fireball at you, and instead of trying to avoid it, you just try to withstand it, right? Well, then that's what you use the withstand action for, which utilizes armor passives and that. Yeah, I think that's really good. I think that's really cool. I think people will enjoy that a lot, because it gives them so many ways to interact with the game state. And deciding what to do with your defenses is a part of the game now. Because you'll have the ability to actually interact with enemy actions without having to use a reaction. And it becomes a whole different part of the game. Especially since initiative's going to be re-rolled every round. So one round you might be on the defensive, the next round you might be on the offensive. I think that's a really good thing. Oh, God. I'm trying to think about this. It rewards predicting based off martial checks. Though there are times it feels like preparing for something will cause enemies to just take a different action, and the defense, while not wasted because it made them make another choice, can just be circumvented. Well, by that very same token, Kenez, I think the way that you look at that is that keeping an enemy from doing what it wants to do, what its character archetype is programmed to do, means that you're probably forcing it to make a suboptimal choice, right? And the cool thing about this is because you don't have to ready actions, which is a very, in the qualitative action system, is an incredibly, like, inefficient way to deal with things that require timing, right? And so you give up most of your turn in order to do it. In this, you don't have to give up your turn to do it. You give up some of your turn to do it, essentially. And I think a judicious use of action points is a way to really, like, interact with that sort of thing. Because you can't hold or ready in Prism. because all of your action points have defensive actions. There are actions that you can take outside of your turn, and there's a lot of them, and they just cost action points. And I think that's a really cool thing. Because initiative is re-rolled every round, essentially, let's say the boss wins the round, right? It wins the round initiative. Well, now, if everybody's initiative is messed up, it doesn't stay that way the whole fight, you know? Every round it changes, which does add a little bit of unpredictability to combat, but that's what combat's supposed to be anyway, you know? So I don't think that's a bad thing. I actually think it's better for the aesthetic, because the boss wins initiative. Okay, now it gets to attack. You got to use all your stuff on defense. Okay, we re-roll. Players win initiative this time. Okay, now they get to attack, and then the boss has to think about it, or the enemies have to think about defense, you know? And then the whole idea is, do I defend and try to mitigate risk, or do I accept risk in order to respond? You know, and I think that gives a lot of potency to player choice, which is the whole point. A lower dependence on modifiers, which is the point. And another big thing is it also gives a lot of design space for builds, I think. Because some people are going to be better at attacking than they are defending. And some characters are going to be better at defending than they are attacking. So in this case, initiative constantly changes, so that way your effectiveness isn't decided at the very beginning of the fight, with no way to really get around it. And I think that's cool. I think people really enjoy that. Yep, the freedom to use multiple reactions in the moment is interesting, and it means you constantly engaged in the fight, seeing what is going on and choosing when to react. It's a huge step for engagement when many people tune out when their turn ends. Exactly. Exactly. That's a great way of looking at it, because that's the intention, right? Because it's like, okay, so if there's 4 players... sorry, I'm very big. Very, very fat. If there are 4 people, right? 4 players, and there are 4 enemies. And the enemies are all great axe-wielding, angry orcs, right? And you've got like a shield-using character, and you've got like a mage, you've got an archer, you've got a 2-handed warrior, right? All the enemies are offense-based. They're not really defense-based. Initiative is rolled. You hope that your defensive guy doesn't go first, but you also hope that he's able to position if he does go first, or if he goes after, you know? So it's like, depending on how the initiative goes, is when you can get into position. Depending on how the initiative goes is, alright, if the shield guy goes first, he gets to position, and then he gets to set up, you know, after he positions, he goes, alright, I'm not going to attack, because between me and the next player, there's 3 orcs, right? So because you look at the initiative tree and you look at the tracker, you can see, oh, I want to save my action points because all their turns go between me and my ally, right? So you're like, okay, I'll save my action points to defend. They attack, defend, mitigated damage, mitigated losses, right? And then in the next rollout, the shield guy goes last, right? And the 2-handed sword guy goes first. So he's like, okay, do I run up and attack, put myself in danger? Or do I fall back? Do I think I can kill this orc that goes in between me and the shield guy? Because if I'm able to kill him or defeat him, then the shield guy goes, and there's no other enemies that get to go and reposition, and they get to move in, right? So you kind of go back and forth on this, on when to attack, when to defend, and things like that. And what's really cool is that attacks of opportunity are not a core ability anymore. And the idea behind that is only certain characters and creatures have attacks of opportunity. Which means that now enemies that have it are more of a threat because they exude an area of control, but so too do characters, right? Like, one of the big things that I know people really didn't like, even when it benefited them, was the whole trip meta thing, where if somebody moves away from you to go around you, anybody can throw a random hope for a high roll out, and even a creature that actually has that skill, or player that has that skill, can still lose and then have everything interrupted, you know what I mean? So this time around, attacks of opportunity, the ability to interfere with enemies and all of that, and vice versa, will be based off character build with a few, and the core stuff will be more regulated, I think, and I think it'll be really good. Although, granted, a lot of that from the previous thing is just that 5e allowed attack replacers, and Trip was just a good way to control the battlefield. In this regard, that thing will be a more advanced maneuver, but there'll also be other advanced maneuvers, so you're not just spamming the same thing. Like, disarm is a real thing, tripping will be a real thing, shoving, redirecting, moving allies, you know, there's going to be a lot of maneuvers, a lot of ways to interact with the game space, and it'll all be based off of ordering of initiative, which is randomly determined at the beginning of every round, and then you'll also have how you judiciously use your action points. The reason I think it's going to be really fun is because it's almost like there's a new battle every round, right? Because initiative's completely randomized. Which means that every single round is going to be different than the one previous. And that adds to the, I think, the engagement of the combat a lot. Yeah, it doesn't get stagnant once the puzzle is solved. Yeah. It's a good way of looking at it. Because you enjoy more complex or difficult style games, 7 years, 7 days on a scale of 1 to 10, how technically challenging or difficult are you making Prism? Many devs make things very easy to appeal to a wider audience. So what I'm doing, so I think one of the biggest problems of the complexity of combat isn't actually the complexity of decision making, although that's obviously going to be a thing. It's number crunch. One of the biggest things that I learned while observing people in Corvinus, more people spent more time than pretty much anything else in the game checking their numbers. Like, or having their numbers checked. Going through, making sure everything's added properly. Finding out something wasn't added, going back and adding it, interrupting the next person's turn to make sure that all their stacked pieces are together. One of the big mantras of Prism is small numbers, big decisions, right? That's like the mantra that I have. So the game itself won't really be that complex because the number of buttons that you have in front of you that you can press have already been predetermined by your character's build. These are the things you can do. But how you do them, what timing you use to do them, when you choose to do them, and how you do them in tandem with your party members will be the deciding factor of its effectiveness. Not how big numbers are. Not how big your modifiers are. Now, granted, there will still be modifications, like spells that can be cast, things that can be given, you know, things like that. I'm not saying that there aren't going to be any modifiers at all, but the modifier list will be much smaller, and it will not, it won't invalidate the D20, is what I'm saying. So. Oh, I don't mind answering questions. I pretty much finished what I was going to do today. And I'm just kind of reviewing it in my head now. That's a lot to keep your head wrapped around. Well, that's the point, right? is lowering the amount of crunch means that people can then spend their time, their cognitive energy on the critical thinking aspect and the teamwork aspect, rather than trying to make sure that their numbers are right. And obviously, there's going to be some players that'll have trouble with the complexity of combat, but I mean, that can't be helped. That's not what I'm designing the game for, is for the I have a big belief that that difficult combat is more rewarding than power fantasy big smashies, right? Like I don't think that has substance. But that doesn't mean that you can't accomplish that through a system that's easy to understand. And I do think that this system will be easy to understand once all the pieces are in play, mostly because it's being designed for Foundry, so a lot of it's going to be auto-tracked anyway. But for the tabletop IRL version of it, in my mind's eye, you have your character sheet, and then you'll have your ability cards, right? And you'll have like 4 of them. You'll have the core ones, which are these, and then you'll have like 4 or 5 things you can do outside of it. I do not think it's going to be that much. And the cooler part of it, I think, is that since everything costs action points, it's easier to understand how much you can do in a turn. And there's going to be less people asking questions of, what type of action is this? You know? And does this action work this way? What if I did this one thing this way? You know, there's going to be a lot less questions of that.
Not sad or not weep. Not all tears
Are an evil. And I think also, more importantly, it'll be harder to confuse what you can do because all of the point costs will be clearly stated. Yeah, I think so. Are you going to work on fleshing out your keywords before the Kickstarter launch? Some of them. What makes D&D slow, in my opinion, is that not all the rolls are done by the attacker and caster. Mechanically, spells would be faster if only the caster needed to roll. Only if the target has an ability should there be a need to roll for them. Thoughts? Well, here's the thing, right? This is a good question. So I'll go into it on kind of like what I think about that. I think there's a lot of stuff there to be explored. So, yes, the game could be simplified if only the attacker rolled dice. But the problem with that is that it decreases the feeling of interactivity, right? Because there are some class fantasies that interrupt, like counterspell or blocking with a shield. The heavily simplified version of 5e is, for the most part, I attack, did I hit? Or, in the case of save spells, I cast at you, you have to roll, did you make it, then this happens, right? But it's still the same amount of time. I think the problem, what makes D&D slow, it basically comes in 4 parts, right? You have people that do not know what their character does. So you have player skill. You have composition of players for the game, meaning how familiar are you with everything else that's happening, right? Then you have just people paying attention, right? Like it's people zoning out during their turn and stuff like that. And that, I think that third one is the biggest flaw in that synopsis of only the attacker rolls, right? Because if only the attacker rolls and there's no way to interact, then there's no reason to pay attention when it's not your turn and you're not a target, right? Because there's nothing you can do anyway. And I think that's a pretty big problem that'll happen, because once someone tunes out, then they tune back in and they don't know what's happening when it's their turn, right? And it's pretty obvious in some cases. And the fourth thing is also DM clarity on what's happening. DM's a big part of it. Combat slowness is a multi-variant problem that involves both system design and it involves player interaction and DM interaction. It's comprised of all these pieces. Combat taking a long time is compounded, I think, by these two factors interacting, right? So if a system is complex, there are more points of failure where people can argue, correct, or lose confidence. A great example of this is 5th edition, no homebrew, is a very simple game that accomplished what it set out to do, was to get as many people as possible to play. The problem is that in 5th edition, every character is the same as another character for the first 2 levels if they're the same class. In almost each case, right? Like, yes, clerics get their shit early, like at first level, and so do wizards, but the point is that like so much of the characters are the same as everyone else that there's not really any unique interaction points, and therefore people lose identity and they lose fun, they lose longevity, right? But 5th edition was designed to get people in, not to keep them there. It's dependent on homebrewing to keep people, which is a pretty decent way to approach it in my opinion. But the big thing there is that if you have a complex system, people that master it get a lot more out of it, because there's so many things that they can interact with in the game, so many builds they can make, so many character types they can make, so many fantasies that they can achieve, right? So combat length is dependent on system complexity, but it is also dependent on player mastery and DM mastery, right? So the most optimal way, in my experience, in order to achieve the fastest and most efficient combat time possible, is that you need to have every aspect working together. So you need a system that is simple enough to understand, but complex enough to entice. You need a player base that is familiar enough in order to play well. And then you need a DM who is clear enough on rules and rulings so that people aren't constantly confused, right? And you need all 3 of those pieces. So I think that, all in all, having only one person roll dice to determine whether or not an effect is successful, I think is dependent on a number of aspects, right? Only having one person roll the dice does make it faster, but it makes it less interactive. I, for one, would take a slight increase to time for more interactivity, because I think in the long run, you're going to gain more time that way, because people will be more likely to pay attention. Hold on. sorry. Little interruption there. Where was I? Okay, so it's comprised of just like a couple of points. Oh, God, I forgot where I was. Oh, I was yeah, so it's comprised of many different factors, and game complexity is one of them, but I do think that a small, tiny sacrifice of time, we're talking like 6 to 8 seconds, is worth the interaction. And I think this system, making it to where every character has the ability to interact with the game state and constantly throughout the round, is going to add to the level of interaction and the level of attention that'll be paid, right? And I think that's a good thing. Now, could it slow things down because many rolls have to be made and many of the rolls are going to be opposed? Yes. But I think it's a worthy gamble. I do. I do think it is. Sorry, that's a long-winded way to answer your question. But I like to give complete answers, so. To mention something close to myself, your systems always have an incredible amount of amazing options to choose, and that can lead to a lot of second guessing or wishes for rebuilding. Though I learned through our games that sticking to your guns makes a more meaningful character path, how do you anticipate people wanting to change their builds during their campaign, and what systems are in place to regard to rebuilding and changing choices? So I think that's a really good question. I will tell you that I have went back and forth on this. And my conclusion was this. I think rebuilding for the sake of rebuilding only and not because of some major story thing that's happened to you. So put that aside because that's a roleplay aspect. Rebuilding purely for the mechanical aspect, I think makes a character weaker. And by character, I mean the overall character, right? It gives them less identity rather than gives them more identity. And I think that rebuilding purely for the sake of fear of missing out, or in the more likely case of purely for power, runs the risk of really detracting from a character's not just their identity, but it just detracts from a character's ability to have a placement in the composition of the party. Because if one character changes dramatically, then everyone else has to change too, right? And sometimes that can be unfair. However, you can't ignore the fact that sometimes players make a bad call on something that they thought they'd enjoy, but they ended up hating, right? So you can't deny it completely. And I went back and forth on this a lot. Because the Prism system has a sufficient amount of build freedom that you can build the thing that you want. Which is why I wanted to say there's no character rebuilds at all. Because some builds will be better early and some builds will be better later. And many people, if I give them the opportunity, will simply build strong early, rebuild to build strong later once they get to higher levels, right? And it's, yes, that's kind of bad faith, but there's players that do that, right? They're going to do it. And I'd rather just remove the temptation completely. But I also can't ignore the fact that these things happen. So what I decided was that one of the character path choices you can take is a rebuild option. But the sacrifice that you make for it is that it takes your character path option for that third, for that sixth, or for that ninth level. Which means that your character, overall, is slightly less developed. But that is the trade that you get for completely rebuilding your character. And I think that's worthy. I think that's a good trade. Is that if somebody really doesn't like what they built, to keep them balanced and to prevent people from gaming the system, using a character path to do that, I think is worth it. And I think that it is the best medium, the best center that I could really find that did not completely discourage people from wanting to rebuild and denying it to them completely, but also not making it so freeform that essentially the permanent choices that you make are meaningless, right? Or that make the game system, like, to make it gamifiable. And the third thing there is that making retraining the cost time, because then that forces other players not to be able to do things, right? Like, how many times has a player wanted to rebuild their character and then everybody else in the party then had to sit there and wait for them, right? Because they know that if they don't, then they won't finish, and then, you know, the problem isn't solved. And that's the other problem to take care of, because just because this player is dissatisfied with their choices doesn't mean that these players are, and now these players have to wait, and then they lose time. You see what I mean? Like, it starts to become recyclical on itself. So that was my determination for rebuilding in Alien Class and for Prism, I think. I agree in the context of D&D, but if slowness comes down to a lack of attention or understanding, initiative is the origin due to the requiring little to no attention outside of your own turn. So wouldn't it be better if abilities allowed for counterplay and synergy to keep everyone active through combat? You must have just gotten here, because I literally just went through explaining how that happens in Prism, which is the system I'm making. Like, all these actions over here, many of them are actions that can be used outside of the turn. So they're reactions, but there's no reaction. It's just, there are some actions that can be used outside of your turn, like avoid, withstand, parry, block, and you spend action points to do it. And if you spend action points to do it, then you don't have those action points when it's your turn. But if you go before the enemy and you spend all your action points to attack, and you don't have any action points left, well, then you can't use the defensive ones. That's the judicious use of action points, and it refreshes at the start of each round. Well, yeah. Like, obviously, this is a D20 system built inside of the cradle of D&D 5e, but I'm making my own system, kind of like, that's separate from it, right? So it's going to have different interaction points, but a lot of it's going to be the same too. Like, it's, you know, you're going to roll D20s. You're going to roll D10s and shit. To be honest, if I have all the options laid out in front of me already from the beginning, I'll never just want to rebuild because I already laid out my build, but that's just a me thing. You know, Mito, you know how many people have said that to me and been wrong? Maybe that's true. There is a crumb of doubt whenever somebody says that. Because the whole point of what I was saying, Mito, is that those rebuilds happen because players were wrong about what they would enjoy. They made a mistake, right? There are many people that plan out their builds, but that doesn't mean that once you actually start playing it, it may not be as fun as you thought. That was the whole point. Like, you might come up with this really cool wizard build, but then, like, somebody in your party is this dual wielder and he's doing all this cool stuff, and you're like, man, I really wish I could do that cool stuff. And then you do your cool thing and you didn't enjoy it as much as you thought. Or, you know, maybe you have a better idea that comes up later. You know what I mean? Like, anything can happen. And then, of course, there's stuff that's unlocked as time goes on as well. So it's one of those things. Here's another one. This is a bigger problem in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. How do you keep players creative after they have done their build without it becoming repetitive? I'm not 100% sure what you mean, but I think I'm going to take a shot at it. It sounds like to me that once a player has a build in mind and then they get to the level which they accomplish that build, they stop being creative. Is that what you mean? Because what I do in Prism, here, I'll show you. It's just easier to show you. All right. So as your character is leveling up, let's do warrior first. Show this. So as you level up, every 3rd, 6th, and 9th level, you get what's called a character path, right? And character paths are my replacement for feats. They are story mechanics, like story quirks, right? Something that happened to you throughout the campaign that changes how your character works. Just gives you a completely unique thing. For example, a great example would be like, let's say let's say you made like a soldier knight gladiator, right? You are a warrior prestige, like you are a pristine warrior. But one of the NPCs you met spoke to you about compassion, and you liked the NPC and you started to spend time with them. And then they are a healer, and they're, as you're spending time with them, teaching you about medicine. And so then you might take the character path of healer because you spent so much time with this NPC that you really like, learning how to care for sick people. Now you have healer abilities. Completely different from the build that you made, but a unique aspect to the character. Clarify, I'm asking how players interact with the world. Once their build is done, they know what they can do, and as the game goes on, they become worse comparatively in things they don't level. Now the thing they can do is their specialty. Yes, then what I just said answers that. Because as you level, as you play the game, you'll get interaction points like I just described, which will give you something new to follow. Something new that'll develop your character. And as for mechanical shortcomings, that's why you're in a party. Yeah. No character is good at everything. That would be boring as hell. And I also hope that the story campaigns, the character paths as a mechanic will really entice people to explore outside of their specialties, right? Like the example I just gave of the notable warrior becoming a healer. He might even take support abilities later. He might go so far as to develop that, like take a second character path that deals with healing. Like he might completely change who he ends up being because of this NPC interaction, you know? Or here's another great example. Let's say you were a vagrant rogue. You're just a dick, right? Walking around, stealing from people, all that stuff. Your life is saved by a cleric of Babylon who teaches you law, who teaches you kindness with a price, you know? And then you become essentially a member of the clergy and you become a follower of Babylon. And instead of all the chaotic shit you used to do, now you're just a tyrant and you're an asshole in a different way. You know what I mean? Like there's so many cool things that can happen with the character path system. And I think it's going to be really cool. It's going to be really nice to watch people make builds that are hard mechanics, but then have these story interactions that lead to character paths, which are these big development moments. And that's the idea. Because one of the big things to kind of double down on what you were saying, Mike, is characters that make a build but then never change their character at all. Like, the story doesn't change them in any meaningful way because they either don't know how to develop their character as a player, or they have the Naruto syndrome, which is they have a cardboard cutout of the character that they want, and they refuse to, like, augment it in any way because it doesn't match what it is that they want to do. When they don't understand that that's not really how it works. You know, your character is a canvas that you started with, but will be changed by the campaign. Like, to me, there is no way that you can play a character in any realistic way and not have it be changed by the adventures that it goes on. In fact, that's actually counterintuitive to the entire point of what we're doing, right? Like, why are you playing if you don't want to change, right? That's the whole point. And the idea is that these character paths give pseudo-mechanical big story methods of how someone can change and how that change will take place in a meaningful way in the story that can be mechanical in a way that will give them a unique identity that maybe they didn't think they'd have when they started, which is the whole point. Like, your character from start to finish will be different. Like, and that's a good thing. Like, you might have started with a impressionable, idealistic, happy-go-lucky, we can do it, guys, character, and at the end, you've become a hard-as-nails, jaded veteran whose life is full of the regrets that he had carried with him. You know, maybe he's a demon slayer because of all the things that he encountered. You know, there's so many different cool things that can happen to your character. You know what I mean? And I think that's good. I think it's a really good thing. I really do. And I look forward to making the appropriate mechanics to let people have access to those kind of, like, pre-prepared pieces for their characters, right? And I think that's good. I think that's going to give people a lot of build presence, a lot of things that they can do, things that they can encounter. Yeah, I think it's going to be good. That's what I hope, at least. But anyway, got everything done that I wanted to today. We're up to the end of stream, so I just wanted to say thanks for watching, everybody. Keep an eye out in the Discord. If you haven't joined it already, please feel free to. Keep an eye out in the Discord for more announcements. The Kickstarter will be going up soon. We're getting all this stuff pointed out. We're going to put up all the art and all that good stuff up there as well. I also am going to try and find musicians by the end of the month as well. So if anybody knows any, please send them up the chain in Discord. Yeah. Good stuff, guys. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for supporting the channel, by the way. I will see you guys tomorrow at 12 p.m. EST. See you guys.